Hi everyone, my name's Will and I'm the Paint Beast, and in this video I'm going to show you how to paint this month's miniature of the month, which is a Emperor's Children Tormentor. So I've already been to the Warhammer store this morning and I've collected my Emperor's Children Tormentor. I've assembled it and I've sprayed it, and we're going to dive straight in and we're going to look at the color scheme that they show you. I can't remember what the this particular color scheme is for this Legion, but if I find out, I'll put it here. But we'll dive straight in. As always, if you find this helpful, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out my Patreon, the link is in the description below. So let's get into it. Hi everyone, I have collected the miniature, put it together and sprayed it as I've just said, and I think I've chosen the colours that we are going to use. I've kind of gone on what I think the colours we're going to use rather than the Games Workshop approved or official colour scheme is. A lot of them are the same, but there's a few bits that I think make it quicker. Looks like quite a lot of paints, but I don't think it is too many. I think this is going to make everything more efficient. I'll just run down what we've got in terms of equipment and paints, and then I'll crack on with the painting. So in terms of equipment, as always, we've got our two receptacles of water, one to rinse all of the pigment off, and then one to just sort of give it a quick extra rinse, because there's always some pigment that stays in because the water is then full of pigment. I've got my super dirty mixing tray here. This is just so I can mix up some contrast paints. Don't worry, in the time frame that we're going to be using, none of this paint that's already in here will affect anything. I've got my piece of paper towel to control the paint on my brush. I've got an Artis Opus Series D medium brush, and also just a cheap makeup brush. I'm not sure which one I'll use yet, but we'll figure that out as we go along. The reason I might use this makeup brush is because I don't want to ruin this good brush, and sometimes this Necron Compound can get a bit sticky and gum up these brushes without it, and you can clean them and clean them and clean them, and you'll get there eventually, but it's just time saving if anything. And this brush, at the end of the day, if it gets ruined, I'm not going to worry about replacing it, whereas these ones are my nice ones and I want to keep them as nice for as long as I can. I've got three other brushes here. I've got a size 0 Raphael Kolinsky sable. This is one for applying sort of washes in targeted areas. The bristles have gone a bit funny now because I've been using it for months and months and months. This is my standard workhorse one for applying washes to large areas of surface area stuff. It's a size 1 Raphael Kolinsky sable, and then I've got my newest Raphael Kolinsky sable, which is a size 0 as well, and that's for any highlighting and blending and other things that I need a good brush for. Wet palette with a new piece of paper on it, and then of course the paints, and I'll run through these as quickly as I can, but there will also be a list in the description. So we've got some Nuln Oil Shade, Necron Compound for the dry brushing, Stormhost Silver for a highlight. Then we've got some Black Templar contrast, which we're going to be using to paint in the black panels. We've got some Mechanicus Standard Grey, Administratum Grey, there for highlights on the black sections, Contrast Medium, which we'll be using with most of the contrast paint, Contrast Terradon Turquoise, Abaddon Black, Leadbelcher to fill in possibly some mistakes or the armour studs once we've painted over them, Retributor Armour for the gold details, Contrast Aggaros Dunes for shading the gold, Emperor's Children for the pink sections as a base, Pilgrim Pink for the highlights, and then I'm not sure which one of these we'll be using yet, but we've got either Berserker Bloodshade or Carroburg Crimson, and during the video you'll see my process for deciding which one to use. We've got some Cyberite Green, some Aldari Emerald, Lamian Medium, Gorse Blaster Green, Shabti Bone and Wraith Bone. Again, those out of those sort of 6 paints, I'm not sure which ones I'll use to do the details, and I'll show you from my reference picture. So this this thing here, and the hair sort of like that's coming off the top there. I'm not sure which of those paints I'll use, but we'll see throughout the video. I've got Corax White, Athematic Blue, and White Scar for the eye lenses. And as you've just seen, I've got my reference image. I've also got a painting handle. I've sprayed this with the Leadbelcher Spray, and I think it's time to start painting. Right, where do we begin? Let's just shift all these back a bit so that I've got some room on the palette. There we go. Right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is covering the entire miniature in Nuln Oil, and the reason I've chosen to spray this, to prime this in silver, is because Chaos Space Marines of any faction tend to have a large amount of really complicated armor trim, and I want to eliminate spending loads of time picking this out, so I'm just going to try and tackle all of the silver elements straight away. So it's going to cover the silver elements of the bolt gun, the knife, the chains on the back, any trim on the back, any pipes on the back, any pipes in the mouth, this thing up here, all of the trim here, all of these studs that we'll have to probably paint back over again anyway. And then we won't have to go and do anything else to them, hopefully. That's the theory. So the first thing first, we're going to use our sort of larger old brush. We're going to get our Nuln Oil Shade. I've already shaken this up, but we'll do it again. Ooh, zoomies. And we're just going to apply that liberally to the miniature, and this might take 2 coats because this new Nuln Oil Shade does not cover like the old one used to. And as I'm doing it, I'm going to try and focus correctly on the miniature. Zoom in. Right, hopefully there. Start at the bottom and work our way up. Actually, it's all right. Basically, we just want definition on the silver parts. We're not too worried about everything else, but I'm going to just paint over the entire miniature because I can't, you know, at the moment I want to save my time. I don't want to sit there trying to pick out all the details. I'd rather just do one generic sweep to get this guy ready for battle. As I'm doing, I'm not worrying too much about where it goes, but if I notice large pools of paint like here on the foot, I will make sure that I wash those away with the brush, draw it away, and I'll work up the miniature. And you know, anywhere that is sort of on the underside of a miniature that you don't tend to notice, you can just sort of jam the brush in there and hope for the best, really. No one's going to see it from a couple of meters away. And I'm being very liberal here with this because I want it to cover and dry, and I don't particularly want to have to go back over this again. I will if I have to. I'm not too bothered. Sometimes I do like a darker shade that maybe one pass of Nuln Oil cannot give me. But yeah, we'll see how this turns out, and then I'll apply another layer. And I'm going to attempt to keep as much painting in here as I can, so you'll see my mistakes, because there will be mistakes. There's always mistakes, and people who do not show their mistakes are robbing you of a learning opportunity. Right, where are we? We need to do the backpack. Just get that in there. Don't worry too much about where it's going to go. If I was painting this to display level, I'd probably be a bit more targeted, and I might use a darker paint like Black Templar contrast paint. But for now, I'm just worried about getting this guy ready for battle. Now, if I was painting a batch of these, I'd probably do it in batches of 5 or maybe 10, and by the time I got to the 10th Marine, the first one would be dry. But at the moment, this will take a little while. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the miniature now, just see if there's anything like here on this backpack. That's quite a lot of paint. So we're going to clean our brush, pop the paintbrush back on the paper towel, and we're going to try and suck some of that paint away. I'm just going to dab it. There you go. It's instantly taken that away. And the same in these little bits here. Just really touch that on. And you can see if this has started to fill up again. I'm okay with that right now, but I'm going to go back to it in maybe a minute or so just to check to see if any of the paint has run down after I've sucked that other paint away. I'm just going to go around, and any massive spots where we don't want too much shading, I'm just going to draw away. Doesn't really matter on these armor segments because we're going to paint over that anyway. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. I haven't decided whether I'll go over it with another layer yet or not, but we'll see once it's dried. Okay, so that is now dry, and actually it's slightly darker than I thought from my previous uses of that, so maybe I hadn't shaken that up well in the past, but I think that'll do. One layer's pretty good. So the next step now is to do a bit of dry brushing. So I do want to use this. I don't want to ruin it though, so I think I'm going to see how I go, and then if I think it's getting too gunked up, I'll switch over to my makeup brush. So for the dry brushing step, we are going to use some Necron Compound, and it's a dry paint. It's one of the technical ones, and obviously for this, there's no need to shake the paint up. We're just going to scoop some out of here, and actually, I think instead of the paper towel, which you kind of don't. Usually you wouldn't use paper towel for dry brushing because it takes too much of the moisture out, but this is quite a sticky paint. It doesn't need too much moisture in it, so we're just gonna, it's just slightly different from how I'd usually dry brush, and I've got a video, one of my first videos based on that. We're gonna see how this works on this guy here. So basically what I want to do is I want to test it on a part of the miniature that we're not going to see this on. So this like studded leather here, we're going to use that as the test part because we're going to paint over this anyway, right? So if we mess up, it doesn't matter because people won't see it. We're just going to test on our finger first, check the paint's coming off, which it is, you can see that. I'm just going to go from top to bottom like this. Now it's a bit subtle at the moment, but as long as we just carry on doing that, you should start to see, and I appreciate my camera's probably not very good quality, that we get a nice highlight like automatically from doing the dry brushing. Now I think I needed a little bit more paint on my brush then, so what we're going to do is going to put some here, wipe most of it away on the paper towel. I'll do it up here so you can see. And we are going to keep on trying to, we're just now going to go all over the miniature basically, just from top to bottom, just like this. And we're going to just always check that there's some paint coming off the brush, which there isn't now, so we need to put some more back on and scoop some out. Ooh. Try not to get too much like on the ferrule, which is the metal part. There you go, that's going to be better. So just take most of it off, not all of it, and go back to your miniature, check on your thumb. That's better, there's more in there now. Right, and we're going to just target this shoulder pad. There you go, and we're just going to go one motion down. We're not hitting the trim going back up the other way. We are literally only putting this from the top, and then we're leaving the miniature and we're going back, and we're going to do that pretty much all over, but focusing on the areas where we're going to have the silver, like on the bolt gun and on the silver trim. Let's get some more on there. That's good. I do like these sort of technical paints, although this one seems to have become quite gummed up, so maybe I'll get a new one fairly soon. Cool. Alright, let's carry on doing this. Yeah, just from top to bottom. We're not going to worry too much about hitting the big open surfaces because we're going to cover that anyway. I'm just going to make sure that all the areas that we want to see as bright silver at the end of this are covered. That's all the pipes, all the chains, and then if we need to put more on the brush, we're just going to go back. Again, this isn't like display quality, so I'm quite comfortable just being very liberal and yeah, trying to get everything covered with a highlight so that I don't have to go back with a you can see that's quite good there on this bit, the trim. I don't want to have to go back and highlight in. I might do that later on when I've got a bit more time. So that's perfectly, acceptable thing to do if you think, oh, I really enjoy painting that, and I've got a spare couple of hours just to work on one or two of the miniatures in this squad. I can go back. I've played a few games on the tabletop. I really like the army. Now I want it to look really good. So that's kind of how I do it sometimes. I don't really play anymore, but if I enjoyed painting something, like a squad of noise marines or something, and they're painted to the tabletop level, I would go back and say, oh, actually I'm going to make these slightly above tabletop level now because I enjoy painting them. I now have more time, and I want them to look better. Here you go. I'm going to point something out right now. Here, on this part of the backpack, I didn't spot that too much of the Nuln oil had pooled here. So it's too shiny and it's too dark. And there's nothing I can really do about this now, but that's just to show you that that was a mistake, and next time I'll watch out and make sure that I spot that. Right, I think that this is now highlighted enough for me. And I'm going to go on to the next step. I will clean this brush, and I'll probably show that in another video how I do that. It's quite simple, but for now I'm just going to leave it to one side. And we're going to get back on to this painting, this scheme. Right, I'm probably not going to use this again, so I'm going to put that back on my shelf so it's not in the way. And have I finished with the Nuln oil as well? I think I have, but we'll put it on the shelf, and then if we need it again, we can grab it. Have a sip of coffee. Yum. And we're going to go on to, I was going to use Stormhost Silver, but I don't want to do any more highlighting than I need to. I've got, maybe we'll pick a few pieces out. So Stormhost Silver, one I've recently started using. I think it's very good. It's very bright. We're going to take our paintbrush with a fine tip. Going to put that in the water just to wet it. Take all the water out on the paper towel. We're then going to take a scoop of Stormhost Silver, pop it on the palette. Introduce a very, very small amount of water with that so it flows off the brush easier. Then put brush on the piece of paper just once or twice, just to wick excess water and paint away. And what I want to do now, just because the dry brush didn't seem to hit some of these areas here, I'm just going to quickly just see if we can zoom in a bit. So you're going to quickly just not even highlight, right? I'm just going to put the brush just on the areas that need to be a bit brighter, just because I think they need to stand out a bit more. It can be a bit fiddly. It's a bit grainy on the camera, but run that along there. Perfect. That's all we needed for that. Same on this side. Just gonna pop some paint there and there. Maybe on the bolt gun, just do a bit, just literally tapping the brush on there, on the side of the head. But we can come back to the smaller details as well, because what's likely going to happen is we're going to go over the armor panels on this with black contrast, and we're going to hit these details anyway, so we might need to come and just touch up very quickly at the end. Right, so that's that. We're done with Stormhost Silver now. I don't want to spend too much time putting more of that on. And we're going to now go to Contrast Black Templar, and I'm going to use my rough brush, which is size 0, to apply that. We're going to take it straight from the pot. I'm going to shake it. I've got a ceramic ball in here to help shake it up better. We're going to really shake it up because pigment tends to settle to the bottom of these. I'm going to take some of that, and we're going to just, oh, also, I'm going to very quickly just check my image reference. So we want to do most of the main body, apart from a few panels. So we're going to keep that here, just as just so we can reference it. We want to do the body and the gun. Right, do you know what? I probably left that on there too long. I don't want it to dry on the brush. Right, where are we going to start? I always, for some reason, I don't know why, just since I've been painting from when I was a young lad, I always start on the miniature's left leg for some reason. So we're going to go up all the way up the left leg, but we're going to try and miss the chain and the knife. We're not going to bother trying to miss the studs. We're just going to come back in and paint over those again. Trying to miss them would take too much time. So like if I'm trying to go like this, I mean I'm doing it, but I could just do this, right? Which would make it much faster. We are going to miss the chain, like I said. We're just going to apply this. I don't mind so much that the metal is shining through. I think that's quite cool. I haven't decided yet whether we're going to keep it like that, but we're just gonna go over everything, and if we need to, we might come back and just fix any mistakes first of all, or just go over this again in another color, just so it's a matte rather than a metal color. This little side pouch, I hadn't planned on that. In fact, I only spotted that just a few minutes ago when I was checking to see if the Nuln Oil had dried. You know what, I'm just going to ignore that, and I'm going to paint it black with the rest of everything else. This top leg section is black, along with the sort of, what is it, like synthetic skin underneath. And this is where you have to start trying to miss the trim. I think I've just hit a bit of trim in here. So what we're going to do, clean the brush off, and we're going to wick some of that away with water. Same on this side. You can still see that silver under there, which is good. And the areas that we need to fill back in, we'll just go and be careful. So this is kind of a balance between being careful and just maximizing your time, essentially, so you can paint more. Be careful where you need to, and if you don't need to be careful, just go, go hard and go very liberal on it. In the reference image, he's got a black panel on his left foot, right foot as well. So I'm going to do the right foot, and this is where, practicing a bit of your brush holding skills and steady hand stuff is good. Bracing your wrists together like this to make sure that you've got like a point of contact always helps. There's a difficult area now, as you might be able to see, where I can't get into this possibly without hitting the knife, but that's okay. It's underneath the miniature, so if we make a bit of a mistake, we can just go over with a bright silver and people probably won't notice. Need to shake this paint up again. There you go. And what else do we need to do? We need to do the body of the gun, the arms, the chest, and one of the shoulder pads and the backpack. Okay, so quite a bit to go. I'm just going to go over all of this gun here. Maybe because we're going to be able to go back in and fill these details in with gold paint. Just, a little bit of time spent on details like this, just to make sure you're slightly more accurate, will save you time in the long run. I think a lot of people, especially comments I've had on YouTube, just saying, "Oh, that took you, why are you doing that? It's not very fast, is it? Painting a miniature in 2 hours." I was like, well, kind of is pretty fast actually. Right, we're not going to bother about trying to miss these studs at the top. We're just going to paint those back in later on. That'll save us some time now. But we are going to make sure that we do not go over the trim that we've already diligently painted. There, I just hit it a little bit, just try and wipe it away with my finger, which I did, and then just sort of muddle the brush in there and there, and then just perfect. And then on the, what should we do next? Which bit can we do next? The upper arm here, and the suit, the bodysuit part. Okay, and if we get a little bit underneath some of the trim, it doesn't really matter. And then all the back, just don't even worry about being very neat here. Just put the paint in. No one's going to see that part. It doesn't really matter. If you're painting to a display or competition standard, you would definitely worry about those parts, but we're not doing that right now. This is the miniature of the month. We've got it for free. We want to test a paint scheme out, or we want to try a new paint scheme, or get a new army sorted. We are just getting this done. Right, I don't know what to do about the head. I think maybe I'm just gonna, apart from where the purple pinky sort of like details will be, I think I'm just gonna go over it all. I'm gonna try and miss some of the details, but I think it's gonna take too long to do that. So I'm just gonna be a bit more careful than I usually would everywhere else. I'm gonna try and miss the mouthpiece because I don't want to have to go in there with a silver overbrush or whatever I'll do. There we go. And now for this shoulder pad, the icon will be gold, so we can paint over that. We're just going to try and make sure that the bristles don't touch the plating, but if it does, we can just wipe it away with our finger very quickly. And everyone makes mistakes, and that's how you learn. Painters who do not put the mistakes in their videos, like I said earlier, are robbing you of a learning opportunity. Not on purpose, I don't think. I think they just want to be very proud of their work, which is obviously absolutely fine. Cool. The shoulder pad here is going to be pink. I think this part here is black and this one here is pink, so we're going to paint that black. We're going to paint the middle part here pink, and we're going to paint this bit black. So let's do that. We can leave all the silver. This is where you want to be careful and leave as much silver as you can, because most of this backpack is silver. I'll just touch that underneath, but we're not going to see that underneath, so that's fine. Just on the sides there, and obviously this bit here, sort of exhaust, I think it is. And to get the highlights on these ridges, what I'm going to do is just do that and then pull that away, so we don't have to go back and then highlight the silver sort of sections later on. There. Then we're just going to jam the brush in at the top just to get some of those details at the back all washed. I've gone over this here, but that's right. You can wipe that away with your finger or with some water. Okay, for me that's all the black sections done. Right, next we're going to just do some highlights on the black section, starting from the feet and working our way up. And for that we're going to use Mechanicus Standard Grey. Shake it up, pop some on the palette. We're going to thin this down with some water, just a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more. That's probably about a brush load of water. Wipe most of it off on there, and then all we're going to do, and I might cut away for this because it might take a little bit longer, we'll see how it goes. We're just going to run our brush along any of the edges that we can reach. We can do some edge highlighting, which you can find videos of, and I'll do a video in the future about it. Yeah, and then basically almost like overbrush the armor. And this leather thing, we're just going to be just going on any of the raised areas. We'll just run our brush along like this. I'm doing this quite roughly. You can spend more time on it if you want to. I want to get this done so I can get this on YouTube, show you the steps. And if there are any mistakes made, we can always go back and sort of put some black lining in. I'll do a video on black lining at some point. Basically, this color, grey, is just subtle enough and just matches the sort of tone underneath that you can sort of be quite quick and liberal about it. A lot of spotted that I've made a mistake here. I've gone over the silver. That's okay. We're going to switch the silver out for grey in that instance. Now these are quite thick highlight lines. That's fine. Just want to get it done, like I said. The back here, put one along there. I'm not going to do too much highlighting on that black section there, that's fine. The other foot. There you go. Maybe just a highlight streak there on the back. This sort of what I like to call the butt shield. Just edge highlight that. Don't matter how rough it is, because we're going to neaten it up in a sec. These panels here, as we're holding this miniature upside down, let's run the brush along those. I'm hitting some of the silver, doesn't really matter. You can't see that grey on the silver anyway. Just gonna, there you go. We've already sort of done a highlight here, but we're just gonna pick that out a little bit, running our brush along and edge highlighting. And then this next part, one line there, maybe a line just to emphasize this part there. Highlight that, brilliant. Highlighting this pouch. I'm going to go quite heavy on this because we need it to stand out a little bit. There we go. That's that. Not going to do the inside of those. Let's go at the body of this bolt gun. So we're just going to put a few lines just on the prominent features. See if we can see that. Just on these prominent features here. Try and sort of like edge highlight all the way around it. Doesn't matter if you miss, because it'll all start to blend into the sort of silver tone underneath the black. There's still some drying going on around here, so I might just skip those bits for a second and just paint like a line here and here, just giving this a little bit more opportunity to stand out. There you go, that's pretty rough, but you can see the principle. And all the bits that are still drying here, actually we can not worry too much about those, because all of the bits that are raised are now completely dry. So we're just going to pop something there, something along here, just to separate the trim a little bit more there as well. Usually I don't like doing this, but I think for this miniature it's quite important. Anything that you do accidentally, like touch it, you can kind of turn into battle damage. And then yeah, on the face we're just going to do some edge highlighting just around the prominent features. You know, a lot of this will be done by the silver anyway, which is why kind of one of the reasons I like to base in silver, because it kind of gives you a bit more depth on the end product. There we go. Right, we're going to do the super highlights now. So when I say super highlights, what I kind of mean is the second stage of highlighting. Let's get that. So we're going to use some Administratum Grey. Again, put some water in it, wipe away the excess on the paper towel, and then we're just going to pick a few areas that we've already gone over with that other grey, and we're just going to pick it out. Almost like just applying one tiny little highlight to very specific areas, like on the corners. Now I'm going to highlight this leather part very boldly, ready for the next step of this, because there's like a blue tint that we're going to put over this leather. So anywhere that I've got some dark grey, I'm going to put quite a lot of light grey anyway. Here, let's go back to the palette, get more paint, really emphasize this. If you want to emphasize it more, because it's leather, you can even put like bright dots, like where the highlights should reflect, essentially. On the knee here. So this is probably a very good example of what I've just said on the knee. one strong line, and then you can keep adding like a reflective spot. Probably enough for that one. And then we're going to go done this foot, done that foot, just put maybe one here, this grey. Just on the inside here, we want to try and get some of these parts on the inside here. Don't go too crazy on these because it's just, this is just tabletop standard, right? Put a little bit of a line in there, maybe here, maybe some dots, just to make sure that that stands out. And then on the elbow, basically just cover a little bit of the area that you've already gone over. There we go. Maybe just a highlight there. Too strong. On the back of the leg, dots on the butt, a little line. And especially here. What we'll do is we'll make this pouch the same colour as the leather, just to, you know, theme that all leather parts are the same, made from the same material. Also, I was told by the guys in the Games Workshop store, or the Warhammer store that is near me, that this leather, that kind of encompasses some of the armour, can also be construed as skin as well, which is quite cool, like flayed skin. I've done that, this here. So I'm just gonna edge highlight these again. Testing on our thumb if we need to, and then just run the edge of the brush, just like that. And if there's anything that goes over, it's battle damage, right? Cool. The face and the chest plate now, and I think that's me done for the black details. I want to move on quickly, and I'm very, obviously conscious that I don't want to make this video too long, and I don't want to cut anything out because I know that people appreciate seeing these sort of things, especially when I make mistakes or kind of don't know what I'm talking about. But I like the sort of mottled texture that the silver base coat gives. Right. You can spend a little bit more time on the face, I always think, because the face is where people usually gravitate towards to look. So any of the details here, you might want to, just give it a little bit more attention to. I won't in this. I'll do a more detailed video of this miniature maybe later on. I'm going to get a set of these because I think they're quite cool. Even though, despite my statement at the beginning of the video, I don't do any of this chaos malarkey. Well, maybe I do now. Oh, and the bolt gun. Right. This is not my standard way of painting bolt guns. I don't like painting bolt guns like this, but I think it fits in with the theme. Basically, I'm just going to run the brush along the corners just to pick out those details, and only on the front. I'm not going to bother with the back. I'm going to have a video coming up showing, dedicated to how I do paint bolt guns when I come across them, fairly soon. There we go. I think that's probably good enough for that. Let's try and hit that. There you go. Cool. So that's kind of the boring black part done. I'm just going to spend maybe one extra second just brightening some of these here because I want to show you how I'm going to make those stand out. Sorry, make this leather stand out. There we go. So for this next part, to make these leather sections stand out, we're going to get our mixing tray thing. Why is it not focusing? There you go. We're going to put some technical contrast medium paint in there. We're going to use our sort of brush that's been used quite a bit. We're going to put 1 scoop in there. 1 scoop. Now we're going to do 2 scoops. Scoop that up, put that in there. I'm going to take Terradon Turquoise, again with a ceramic ball in it. We're going to just touch the brush, so there's not very much in there at all. We're going to mix that in there. Draw most of it out on the paper towel. Then what we're going to do, we're going to test our thumb. That's good. That's very transparent. We're going to run that over this leather section really quickly, making sure not to hit any of the other black armour. And this is where it all starts to come together, right? So you can see that there are now some different colours on the miniature rather than just the black and the silver. I'd like to also point out that a lot of this I might be going outside the lines or you know, accidentally touching things that I've told you not to. This is a very much do as I say, not as I do approach. Yeah. So there you go. There's that. So we've done that section there, and we're going to move on to the leather pouch because we want that to be the same colour. That's a bit too much on the brush. Wipe some away. It's too little on the brush now. Add some more. There we go. Cool. So that has a very subtle blue tint to it now. Might want to go over it again if it's too subtle for you. I'm going to go over it again because it's too subtle for me. Come on, camera focus. Just real quick. Not bothering too much about hitting many other places. There we go. Okay, cool. Now we're going to come to another exciting part, and we're going to add some of the... Should we do the pink first? Let's do the pink first, and then we'll do the gold, and then we'll do the we'll add the silver details back in. So for the pink, what we're going to do is we're going to use Emperor's Children just to add a couple of layers, and then shade down with one of these Carabao Crimson or Berserker Blood Shade, and then highlight with Filgrim Pink. So we're going to take our same brush we just used, put some of this on the palette. Whoops. Put that there. Add a tiny bit of water just so it flows off the brush easier. There might be too much water in that, so I'm going to test that on my thumb before. Yeah, there's too much water in it. So we're going to add some more paint. Quite a bit more paint because there's quite a lot of water in there. I'll do a video about mixing paint as well. There's no one way to mix paint. It's I think some people find that quite confusing. Right, I'm going to paint these armor sections. And I think what I might do is just paint this one section and then come back to you, because I'm going to have to go over this with a few layers. I'll come back to you when it's done, I think. Actually, before I properly go away and do this, I'm going to switch to my fine detail brush. I'm just going to just pick out the main areas in here. I'm not going to do everything because I want there to be like a little dark recess around those bits, but just tap the brush just in these sections that are hard to reach, essentially. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times over the course of the next few minutes just to make sure that the colour is solidly in there. Yeah. And I'll cut back when it's done. Okay, I've just made a bit of a mistake. I've got some of this thin pink paint in the armour, sort of like, what is it, the suit underneath. So I'm just going to dab some water on that and just keep pulling it away until that paint's all gone, because I don't want that paint in there. Sorry, I was putting my brush in my mouth in to sort of lick some of the paint away. There you go. So I've fixed that. I know I said I wouldn't cut away because, you know, I'm depriving you of opportunities to learn, but actually I'll cut back every time I make a mistake, which I think is a fair compromise. Yeah. That's done. Just sort of quickly went over, I think maybe it was 3 coats with each. It didn't take too long. I think it took maybe 15 minutes. I made the same mistake a few times here, and I just did the same thing that I showed you before. There's one thing I was thinking, because we don't know how to shade this down, which colour we're going to use yet. I'll show you how I decide that. So I'm going to just put two stripes of the colour on the base, just like this, and then when it dries we can decide which one we think looks better. And while that's drying, we're going to start painting the no, we're not. I'm going to pause and we're going to wait for that to dry, and then I'll show you how to do this. I'll keep it all consistent. Okay, this bottom bit's dried, so we're going to do Berserker Blood Shade on the left, and we're going to do Caribou Crimson on the right. So this is some Berserker Blood Shade. And the reason I like the textured base here is because you can kind of see where it pools. Let's put just a tiny bit more on there. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see the Caribou Crimson. And I bet they'll look the same. Oh, they don't. This one's more pink, which I think fits this better. So yeah, we're going to use the Caribou Crimson for that. But I do have an idea where we can use the blood shade. So let's get some Caribou Crimson on our brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to shade down, but we're going to make sure we only shade downwards and into the places that we want. So on this leg, I'll show you. We're going to start at the top, and then we're going to release our brush at the bottom where we want the sort of strongest shade, essentially. We're going to tint all of this leg with that shade anyway, so drag and release, and it will sort of spread out and pool itself. And then anywhere there's a recess, we can just tap the brush in there. Yeah, and like just there, along here. It doesn't matter if you get any on the metal, because actually there is this, there's like a pink sort of tinge to the metal as well. But if you do, you can just sort of rub your finger over it, because it's a raised surface and you won't touch the section you've just done underneath. So let's get some more of that and put it on the other pink details. On the hands, very important. I'm not being too careful with this, as you can tell. Here on the shoulder pad, we're just going to let the brush do the work. We're going to let the brush splay out and deposit the pigments where we want them to. It doesn't matter if it goes on the silver. There we go. Cool. On the head. If any goes over a place you don't want it to, like on the raised surfaces, just wipe it away with your finger. Put some on here on this exhaust vent, like that, and then on the backpack. Basically, you want a good like load of this to sort of sit around the edges as well. So I'd maybe recommend doing that and then wiping the thing away. But what we'll be doing, and this is my idea for the Berserker Blood Shade, is we're going to be going over a lot of the trim with Berserker Blood Shade, just to introduce that sort of pink hue to the trim, because if you look at the miniatures, that's how they that's how Games Workshop paints them. Right, we're going to let that dry. And that's almost dry now, so I'm going to show you the next step. We're just going to reintroduce some of the Emperor's Children into the areas we've just darkened down, and we're going to try and do like a bit of a glaze. And I'll show you how to do that. Basically, the best way that I find is to add a bit of water to your paint, take most of it off the brush, and I'm talking about most of it, and then you sort of run. We're going to do it on the shoulder pad, I think. And then you run the brush from sort of the midway up to the top and release at the top to deposit the pigment. That kind of gives you this gradient and a sort of blend, just to reintroduce some of that colour back in. Oops, made a bit of a mistake there, so I'll just take that away. And that's a bit of that's a chunk of paint. Get rid of that, go away, there you go. So that's kind of how I plan to do it on the legs and that. Like I said, this video is getting pretty long now, and if I make a mistake while I'm painting this stage, I'll cut back and let you know, but I'll cut back when all of those pink bits have been updated like that. But you know what, it's not actually going to take that long, so I might as well stay here. And something that I'm experiencing at the moment is this brush is making it quite streaky. I quite like it because it looks like flesh. So it's one of those sort of like happy accidents that you get while you're painting. That kind of lends to it. And what I'm going to do after this is probably add some sort of like thin dark purple lines just to sort of mimic sort of veins or something like that, so it looks like it's actual flesh, which I think would be quite cool. But anyway, I'll just quickly go around the miniature. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this because I want to crack on and get this out for you guys today. Just add a bit more. So in the areas where I'm not going to do this gradient, I can just put dots of this colour, just like a thick highlight, just to get it ready for the next step, which is going to be the fine highlight. And here, just going to put just a tiny bit on the head. There you go. We've got some on the exhaust already, some on the leg, so we want to put maybe just a streak just in the middle. Just wipe a bit more paint off the brush there. And drag that up to the top. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. This is very much tabletop quality and not display. Cool. Oh. Camera's going a bit funny. There. Nice. Right, so we're now going to do some highlights using Fulgrim Pink. That's the last highlight on this stage. We're going to put the Caribou Crimson away. Just going to tidy the desk a little bit. We've probably used the Black Templar enough. Use that in a bit. Yeah, cool. Alright, shake that up. And then we'll put some of this on the palette with a bit of water in it, so it flows smoothly off the brush. Cool. I'm going to take our detail brush. Essentially, we're just going to edge highlight some of the areas and just draw a line on the top of the other areas. So here, let's choose the hand to do this for. I think my camera's going a bit funny. It seems to be lagging. So what I'll do is I'll just finish this hand to show you what I'm doing, and I'm going to transfer some files over to my computer and then carry on again. Basically, and it's just putting a dot of colour on the raised bits. Just to give it that highlight. I'll carry that on in a second. Sorry about that, my phone was becoming overloaded with footage, so I thought I'd sort out. Where were we? We were highlighting the pink elements of this Tormentor. So that's great. Some more of this Fulgrim Pink, and we're just going to really quickly just go around, and we're just going to put some highlights just on the top edges of these things. And some of these highlights will be dots, some will be lines. You see in there, just a dot. All quite fine, all just following the sort of curves and stuff. Then on the bottom, where we've got this hard edge, we are going to, if we can focus correctly, yep, edge highlight. So that's the edge of the brush on the edge of the miniature. And it forms a nice natural highlight that we don't have to worry too much about. You know, what we're doing with the brush, it just automatically forms. As well, and then I'm going to just highlight maybe the top edge of this shoulder pad, this pauldron. Hold the miniature very still, holding our hands with our wrists together, putting a line across the top. And here, just again another edge highlight just there, maybe on the shoulder, elbow, just down there. Put a line here. Yeah, kind of as simple as that really. And then on the head, we're not even going to do lines. We're just going to do dots. Well, that was a line, that one. We'll just like, you know, there you go. Edge highlight this bit. Put a dot there. And then where else? Just on the back here, I've missed that part. Maybe just a line just at the top there. There we go, just neaten that one up a bit. And then on this backpack, we're not going to go too crazy. We're just going to put an edge highlight here just on the back so you can see that from the front when you look. Whoops. There, like that. And then 2 lines just down each side. One there. One there. Oh, it's a bit wobbly. So my hands have gone a bit shaky. And then just let's make those match up a bit more. There you go. Something like this. Just a V in the middle. And a line at the bottom. Oh, that's gone wrong. Quick bit of water. Bit of muddling the brush there. Let's wick away the excess water again. Like that. Perfect. Actually, I think that'll do for that one. Remember, we're not going for incredible detail on this. We're just getting it on the tabletop. So next, should we finish off all of the silver details, the ones that we missed, and then we'll go on to the gold, and then we'll do the hair and the eyes, and then it's done. So next, silver details. We have got some silver bits that we painted over for speed, and they're these sort of studs here, and then the bits on the face. So what do we do for those? Well, I'm going to take my Leadbelcher, pot of Leadbelcher, shake it up, and we're just going to fill those details in again. And this way is much quicker. Oops. This way is much quicker than trying to sort of navigate around all of the other silver parts when you're painting the contrast paint on. Sorry. So there you go. So what do? We just touch our brush to the node because there will be a bit of black left around. I've messed up there. I'll show you how I get around that in a second. And all we're going to do is just go around and paint just one dot. We're going to leave some black around the edges, so you don't need to worry too much about that. You can see I've gone over the lines, as I like to call it, a couple of times. Doesn't matter, we'll sort that out in a bit. I find this stage a little bit hard because I've not got my magnifying lamp in front of me, so I'm just using my poor eyesight, which is untrue. My eyes are pretty good, but yeah, it's definitely easier with a dedicated lamp. And there are some like other bits that you can get along the way, like some studs and stuff that might look cool being silver. So that's the leg. There are these bits here on the chest that will define the chest from the head a little bit more. And we've got this tube which we can just, you know, paint along the lines. On the other side we're just going to put one dot of silver. Anywhere else we've missed? Yeah, like this one there, one here. I think that'll do for now. I'm not going to go crazy on that. And then the next step, we are going to tidy up the mistakes. So some Abaddon, or as you, if you're from where I'm from, you call it Abaddon. Some Abaddon Black. Just a little bit. Thin it down with a bit of water, as you can see there on the pad. Wipe most of it off on the paper towel. And then where we've gone wrong, and I'll zoom in. So this one here is a good example. Like a line instead of a dot. We're just going to put some black just on that extra part there that we didn't mean to paint, and then it disappears. I think I did that on one wall, which is up here. Do the same thing. Yeah, it's gone. And on the other side, it looks like. So you could like just paint a tiny little circle around it if you feel confident. There. Right. Now we need to highlight those bits because obviously they are not dry brushed from our initial stage. So that's where we get the Stormhost Silver back out. And we're just going to put some water on the brush, put that on the palette, wipe most of it off on the paper towel, put some more on our brush, wipe it again. That just make sure that there's not too much water in it. And then we're going to just make these dots just a little bit, these nodes just a little bit brighter. I think I'm going to do a few, not too many, not all of them at least, just the ones at the front. I'm going to quickly just highlight this knife just by running that around along the edge. Maybe catch some of the chains back there too. Come up on the other side of the knife as well. This is almost like an overbrush highlight thing. There you go. And I'm going to make that pink, so we want that to look bright. There you go, that'll do. Should we put some on that chain? Yeah, let's do that. There you go. Right. So that's the nodes on the legs and the other silver details done. What's next is the, did I say the gold? Oh no, I haven't done the, silly me, I haven't done the silver details on the head. So let's just put some bright silver there, and then we can add some bright silver here. And on that one. Oops. There. Perfect. So let's maybe enhance that a bit. Cool. Right, next. Gold, I think. Yeah, let's do the gold. So for the gold, Retributor Armour. And we're just going to basically colour in those areas that we want to be gold. Which is going to be, before I forget and I've seen it, it's going to be this, the handle of this knife. Doesn't matter that I've caught that thing because we're going to want that gold as well. Handle of the knife. And this can be rough if you're just doing it tabletop standard. We want this coin thing to be gold as well. Perfect. So that was kind of in the way of the other gold detail. We definitely want these bits on the front of the bolt gun to be gold. And this is easy because you can almost just lay your brush flat and then just pull it across as long as you don't touch the underneath. So like that. We've got some nice raised areas on the Slaanesh symbol here. Brilliant. And then possibly this one's going to be a bit more of a challenge. The eagle wing symbol. Although actually we can just do the same as what we just did now and just run our brush along the bits where we don't want it to overspill essentially. And Retributor Armour is my favourite gold in all of the world in terms of paint because it just paints on so well. Like I'm only going to do one layer of this. I could do two, but its coverage is pretty good. Excellent. Cool. Right. Is that the only other gold things that we're going to do? Yeah. And do you know what? While we're waiting for that gold to dry, I'm just going to show you why I left the Berserker Blood Shade out. We're going to take some of that, put it on our palette just to thin it out a bit, take some off our brush, and you notice, remember when I said it doesn't matter about if some of the pink has gone on the trim? That's because the Slaanesh trim has this sort of like hue on it, this sort of pink hue, so we can add some of that in with the Berserker Blood Shade. And like on the back here where I've gone over, doesn't matter because we're going to add that in, add some in there. That gives you sort of like a subtle colour gradient without having to do any like blending or anything like that, which I've always enjoy doing, just to make some extra features pop. So I'm going to put some just on the gun here as well. Just like that. There you go. That's quite subtle, you probably can't see that on the camera. But hopefully on the showcase you will. And this is going to look terrible on the showcase, I think. But that's fine, we're only doing it quickly. Right, so that gold is probably dry by now. And first things first, we just need to rectify. I've put some gold in a place that shouldn't be, so we're just going to draw a line of black around this sort of circle object. There you go, that's fixed that. And then we're going to take some Aggaros Dunes, shake it up with the ceramic ball or a stainless steel ball, and we're going to just take a brush and paint over the gold details with this. It's a very good, I find this a very good colour to shade gold. It's got that sort of brown, brownness that you need for gold, essentially. You can see I went over the edge there. Clean your brush, take away the water, and then just quickly tap your brush on there. No need to panic, but as long as you do it quickly, you should be okay. Right, so that's those areas shaded. While we're waiting for that to dry, I think, you know what, I quite like that really rich gold. I think that's very reminiscent of Slaanesh. I don't think I'm going to highlight that anymore, so we're going to leave it like that to get it on the table. What else would I like to do? I need to paint the hair and these little tassels sort of things, and then we're pretty much done, I think, other than the eyes. Maybe I want to add a bit of a different colour into this here, like a spot colour. I'll show you what a spot colour is. So what we're going to do next, we are going to remove that paint from there. We're going to cover the this is a new paint that I bought today. We're going to cover the tassels and the sort of hair thing with some Cyberite green. Let's start on this one. Yeah, that's a good colour. I like that. Perfect. And then that will dry, and we'll be able to add like a wash or something to it, or a shade, and then highlight up with some Gorse Blaster green, maybe some Shabti bone. Right, this is where you might have to be a little bit more careful, because we don't want to destroy the details we've already done. Just in here. You will need 2 layers of this as well to go over the silver. Don't, never be afraid. You don't have to rigidly hold your miniature upright and do this. Turning it upside down to get to the bits you can't reach is perfectly acceptable. I don't know why anyone would stop you from doing that, because we all know that, but maybe some people wouldn't realise that they can, instead of moving this arm all around the place to try and get to it, just move the miniature around. And in case you didn't know this already, the best thing to do in terms of other entertainment while you're miniature painting is listening to music rather than watching anything on like Netflix or something like that, because you're distracted by the visuals of Netflix, whereas you wouldn't be so distracted by the sound of music. And you can, well, I'm not saying you should watch the sound of music, ha 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 ha. It's more of a case of, your vision being attuned to the miniature rather than a screen, or, there's competition in terms of entertainment if you're painting and watching something, whereas music can be listened to and won't distract you as much. Let's just do another layer of that over these. Nice. And then where we started here. It doesn't really matter if coverage is patchy on this. It's a natural substance, this hair. There you go, as long as you're just being careful. So that's quite cool. What we're going to do is we're just going to blend that a little bit with some Ushabti bone, just to get like a gradient. And this is really simple. What you're going to need is some Lamian medium, or a medium of any type, and some sort of cream colour. I've got Ushabti bone. We're going to take some of the medium, one brushful. I'm going to put that on the palette, clean our brush, then add this 1 scoop of this colour, clean our brush, take the colour, load our brush up with it, wipe most of it off on the paper towel, and then just on the ends just add some of that, dragging from the top to the bottom essentially. That kind of gives it a little bit of a gradient. Don't have to be neat about this because it's all going to blend in when we add some of the other colours. It's just going to be on the ends of the hair up here as well. So just pick a point, maybe halfway up, that you're going to be applying this colour, and then just drag the paint from the top to the bottom essentially. That's how you do it. That's how most glazing is done, is pick a point, take it from there, lift your brush off. There you go. What's in there? And there. Well, I'm just going to go over that part again because that's a fairly large part and I don't want it to be as patchy there. On the bottom here it doesn't matter so much. We might as well just put some more highlights in there. I mean, this looks fairly impressive, this gradient, for it taking about 3 seconds, but we're going to just work on it a bit more. Put some in there. There we go. Right, the next step on that, we're going to get our mixing tray back out, and I think we're going to use some Aldari Emerald and some contrast medium just to give this a shade. So probably 2 scoops of contrast medium, clean the brush. I'm going to very, very, very slightly touch the brush to this paint. That's probably enough. Mix that in there. It gives us a bit of a shaded colour, and we're going to practice on the one on the back, the one that no one's going to see. We're going to draw that from the bottom to the top, so we keep that cream colour we've just put there. There you go. So the same here. Making sure that we get this into the recesses. And this is the true test of the one on top. Yeah, brilliant. We're not going to go all the way down to the bottom because we want to keep some of that cream colour in there. I'm just going to use this as like a shade, just to get in between the different strands of hair. It's quite hard to see on the camera because my camera quality has gone down quite a lot because my other camera's broken. Cool, there you go. Maybe in here a little bit. Wait for that to dry, which shouldn't take too long. The ones on the bottom have almost dried anyway. And then if we're feeling fancy, what we can do is we can take some Gorse Blaster Green, shake it up, open it. This is a new pot as well. Put some on the palette with a little bit of water. Mix that in there. Clean your brush, dry it, grab the paint, and then we'll do another edge highlight. So what we're going to do is hopefully automatically just pick up all of the strands of this and just blend everything into one. And we're going to just keep to the top, I think. Just a few, nothing too extreme. Just where the raised surfaces are. There you go. Same on this side as well. Again, manipulate the orientation of your mini so you don't have to struggle sort of bending around stuff. That's still a bit wet up here, and all I'm going to be doing is letting that dry, so I'm just going to pause and then come back when it's dry. Actually, I've changed my mind. We'll let that to dry, and we'll wait for that to dry, and what I'll do is I'm just going to add some of that Eldari Emerald just onto this blade, just to, you know, give an emphasis on that. I've painted this just the cream colour. I'm not going to bother too much about that. It's such a tiny detail that we're not going to worry too much, and we're just going to pop that there just to give it a bit more depth. Yeah, it's cool, looking good so far. Right, I think the hair is dry enough that we can put some of this Gorse Blaster Green just as a edge highlight just on the hair. Again, like, let the brush do the work. I'll create a video to do with this form of highlighting at some point soon, but there are plenty of videos out there that show it from much bigger miniature painters on YouTube. There you go. Right. I'm not going to bother too much about being too neat at this point. I think it looks pretty good like that. There you go. That's almost done, apart from the eye lenses now. So what we need to do for those, we didn't use the Wraithbone in the end, which is pretty cool. One less paint to list. Right, we're going to take some Corax White, shake it up. This has gone all gunky, so I'm going to put some water in it, make it so it's fluid. Not going to touch it to the palette, sorry, to the paper. Just test it on our thumb. And where the lenses are, we are going to just cover just the raised part of the lenses. We'll leave some black in the recesses. There we go, that's the first one. Reset the brush, add some more on there, come in for a different angle to get the second one. Brilliant. Now you could leave it like that if you wanted, that looks okay, but I want it to be like a bright blue, so we're going to put some athematic blue in there, just shake it up. There you go. Take a little bit of fire brush and then just be very liberal in the when we put it in, so it gives us that nice blue tint. There you go. And that'll dry nicely, and I don't know if I've missed anything. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take some of the Aggaros Dunes, because that belt sort of sash that's holding the knife is bothering me, so we're just going to put some shading in there using that. I've accidentally hit the blade, so we're going to wipe away that part with our brush. There you go. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much done for me in terms of tabletop quality. That'll help you get it on the table. I think, what's the time now? 2:30. So I started painting this at 11:45. I had to allow maybe 30 to 40 minutes for drying time, so away from the camera. I had some camera difficulties, so I stopped for maybe another half an hour. So what's that? Let's say an hour. So which would make the time actually 1:30. I've been explaining it, so I think probably overall this probably took me about an hour and a half, not including drying time and that, and it's pretty good for an hour and a half's work, really. We could definitely enhance it. We could spend 50 hours on a miniature, right? But I think this is pretty good for just a quick miniature of the month, which I appreciate the video is fairly long, but doesn't matter, we're all having fun. Cool, well, I hope you enjoyed that process. Thank you for watching. I had great fun painting that miniature. It's very good miniature to paint, and I'm looking forward to getting the set, which I wasn't expecting because I don't really go in for this chaos malarkey. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did and you learned something, or you just want to see my future videos, please like, comment and subscribe, and make sure to change that notification icon so that you can get notified of each of my new videos. And if you want to see stuff before it's released, or you want extra things, then check out my Patreon, which is linked in the description below. After I've stopped speaking, there'll be the names of my patrons and shout outs to them. So thank you everyone. Thank you to my patrons, and thank you to the people who are continuously watching my videos. It's really, really good, and it helps this channel immensely. Spread the word to all of your miniature painting friends and all of your other friends and everybody else you know. Relentlessly bother everyone, just for me, please. Enjoy your painting, happy painting. I'll see you next time. And just a quick shout out to those who are on the Beasticore tier in my Patreon, and that's Andy Smith and MC Van Wyck. Thanks guys, couldn't do it without you.